it was a lot for me to take in at first. And I actually didn't really feel ready to do travel nursing until I had like enough experience under my belt. I'd rather put money into something that's maybe depreciating by 30, 40%, whatever it might be, as opposed to like 100% of the money down the drain. Yeah, we were like 6 figures in credit card debt, but we also had more than 6 figures in equity. And then we're realizing, oh my gosh, we're making a lot of money on this. We need to do this a little bit more. Be making so much money that I could just be a volunteer nurse. And I feel like I could help more people if I can be more free from those like 9 to 5 shackles.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and our series, Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. In this episode, you're in for a treat. We're going to be hearing from a nurse who purchased a travel trailer with her husband, pays approximately $800 to $1,200 per month in financing and maintenance costs, and has purchased 2 short-term rental properties in the last couple of years that are generating her and her husband a combined $25,000 to $30,000 per month with their travel nursing income included. And in addition to that, they are also doing this with children of their own. So we're going to find out exactly how she and her husband do all of this and how you might be able to do it as well. Now, Lynn, tell us who you are and what you do for a living.
So my name is Lynn, and I'm actually a registered nurse for a living. I am a med-surg nurse, and I primarily do travel nursing assignments.
Great. And where do you currently live?
Currently, I mean, being a travel nurse, I really don't have a primary home per se. I guess my primary residence is in Oregon.
Did you grow up in Oregon, or where did you grow up?
No, so actually, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. My husband, who's also a nurse, during the pandemic, he wanted to pursue travel nursing, and my nursing school was still online. And we got this offer for him to be a travel nurse in Oregon. And at first we're like, well, where's Oregon? Like, I didn't really even know where it was. And we're like, 36 hours away? That is crazy. But we just packed up, we left. We had like 2 weeks to get there. And we absolutely like fell in love with Oregon. We've been there pretty much ever since. Of course, we come back to the suburbs to visit family, but technically, yes, I'm a Oregon resident.
Wow. So have you been traveling through Oregon as a travel nurse?
No, so I actually started my new grad program in Oregon after I graduated. I did take the NCLEX in Illinois, but I right away endorsed my license in Oregon because that's where we were. Started my new grad residency there. Did it for about 6 months there and then had another baby, and we actually came back to Chicagoland area for a little bit.
Did your boyfriend, your husband, did he grow up in Chicago as well?
He grew up in Mumbai. So he's from India, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
We met on Tinder.
That's awesome. Hey, no knock on that, because like Monica and I, we met. It's so funny because I'm from the Dominican Republic and Monica's Filipino.
Mhm.
And this was like maybe 18 years ago or so, there was this website called mijente.com. And I was on a whole bunch of like these social media platforms, and one of them was like MySpace, one of them was Mi Gente. All of a sudden, I see this Asian girl on a Spanish website. I'm like, what are you doing here? And then that's how we met, because I was going through a breakup at the time, and I was like, I just need somebody to talk to, and we became really good friends, and we've been like best friends ever since. But
Yeah.
that's how we met online as well.
Yeah, they always say don't try to find love during a breakup. That's not true, because I was going through a breakup too, and it actually was like the most perfect thing. So
Yeah. So how long have you guys been together?
we've been together 6 years and married for almost 4 now. So yeah.
Awesome. And was he a nurse when you guys first met?
No, so he was in nursing school when we first met. I think he had like a year and a half left, and I was still doing prereqs to get in the program, but I was kind of like questioning it all at that point. But he really encouraged me and said, no, you got to do it. I said, okay.
And is he doing travel nursing as well?
Yeah, so he started as the travel nurse, and I would just kind of like follow him to contracts after I did my new grad residency. I didn't have like enough experience because travel nursing, they want at least 1 year or more. And at the time, I only had 6 months. So I would just like apply as staff to the hospital and say, hey, like my husband's a travel nurse, take it or leave it. Everywhere's pretty much short staffed anyways. So you want me or not? And most of them took me. So
What do you say to those people who want to get into travel nursing as new grads? Do you think it's a good idea?
not as a new grad. I mean, like at my current job, we have a lot of like new grads in the residency program, and they are actually like it's very overwhelming at first, and it's a lot to take in. Even being on the West Coast, which is like a nursing friendly, like they're nursing friendly states, it was a lot for me to take in at first, and I actually didn't really feel ready to do travel nursing until I had like enough experience under my belt. Just because you get a longer orientation and you really get more support. So I wouldn't recommend it as a new grad. I mean, it depends on like the kind of nurse you are, how fast you pick up on things. Like I would say 6 months is when I felt ready. But again, most places won't even let you unless you have a year in.
Hmm. And what specialty do you work in?
I work med surge, but actually, right now, my current contract just threw me on a neurology unit, which I didn't have any experience with it. But I'm like, hey, okay, we'll learn this together. So
And what about your husband?
it's med surge as well.
I see. How do you feel about med surg? Have you worked in any other specialty before?
So there was this one contract where they allowed you to cross train in other departments. I did start to get some critical care experience at that one contract, but otherwise it's just been mostly med surge.
I see. And how many hours are you typically working?
I work 36 hours a week,
I
and then
see.
the contracts are like for 13 weeks.
Once your contract is over, do you already have another one lined up, or do you have some time in between where you take a break?
Usually, so we've never really taken a break between contracts. The first, like, I mean, the breaks we take are like 1 to 2 weeks max. As far as this contract, I don't have anything lined up because I'm transitioning out of travel nursing. I'm actually gonna be teaching. So
Teaching.
yeah,
What?
I got my master's degree back in September. So I'm gonna be teaching a BSN program up here in the Chicago suburbs.
That's beautiful. We need more nurses, more nursing instructors, and more teachers.
Yeah.
That's great. And are you going to be teaching at a local university, college? Are you going to be teaching online?
It's going to be like a local university. So it's going to be in person. I think part of it will be online, and I'm only going to be doing like part time.
And then right now, you said that you're currently working on a contract and you're doing neuro. Is it neuro?
Yes,
Okay. And your husband is also on a contract at the moment.
correct. We're at the same hospital. We always take them at the same.
And how many children do you have?
We have two with a third one on the way.
How are you doing that? Because you're not at the same location all the time.
So, like, a lot of people ask how we do that. So, we live in a fifth wheel. It's a house on wheels. It's huge. We're like a semi when we're hitched. Got like 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, has a bathtub, has a washer dryer. We don't have to pack everything per contract. And then I do have like an app that I use to find a nanny, care.com, because they have already background check everyone. So I usually know like where my next contract is 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time. So I'll just like post a job application and then I'll interview people over the phone.
Have you had any issues finding someone to care for your children while you're at work?
Never. No. I've been actually really blessed. I've had great nannies through them.
Oh my gosh.
They always come to me.
You are very lucky because I have a few coworkers, one in particular. She's been through 5 different nannies already. And just in the span of like the last 2 years, she has not had much luck. You said you have what is it? What do you call a RV fifth wheel?
Yeah, fifth wheel.
Fifth wheel. I've never heard of a fifth wheel. Why is it called the fifth wheel?
The fifth wheel's the one that like it hitches to the bed of a truck.
Oh, I see.
It's basically an RV. It's a type of RV. So you have like Class A, which you drive, a travel trailer, which is one that just hitches on like the back of like a bigger car or truck, or like the fifth wheel that actually like kind of goosenecks to the bed of the truck. So we have a fifth wheel. So it actually has stairs that goes up to another level.
That's really cool. When did you guys decide to purchase one?
Well, after we've been doing travel nursing for a year, I was like 8 months pregnant. I know this sounds really crazy, but we were just sick of dumping money into rent. It just basically goes down the drain. So I know like an RV depreciates in value, but at least it's like ours that's depreciating in value. Like I'd rather put money into something that's maybe depreciating by 30, 40%, whatever it might be, as opposed to like 100% of the money down the drain.
And how much did it cost you guys?
$75,000.
Oh, that's actually not as bad as I was expecting. That's pretty good. And because if you think about it, like depending on how long you use it for, that's basically, I'm thinking about how much we spend on our mortgage or our rent, for example. And let's say you're spending $3,000 a month, that's $36,000 a year. In
Mhm.
just, 2 years, almost 2 years and a half, you've already paid off a vehicle like that.
Well, RVs let you kind of extend it like a mortgage. So, like, we could get like a 10-year term, a 20-year term, but we only pay like $400 a month on it. And we could pay it off early, but we're choosing to leverage in other ways.
So you are making travel nursing income while you're only paying $400 a month for your living expenses
Well,
at
we
the
have to
moment.
pay the RV park too, and those range anywhere from like 3 to $800 a month.
Oh, okay. That's still not bad. So in total, you're spending about what, $800? Yeah, in total, what, it's like 800 to maybe 1200?
Correct.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty good. So what are you doing with the rest of your money?
So we're investing it in real estate, actually, is what we've been doing the past 2 years. After 1 year of living in the RV, we figured we really need something that's going to appreciate in value. We need to start investing. So we did buy a house in the Chicago suburbs. And then a couple months later, we bought a house in Oregon. So we love being near family, but I also just fell in love with Southern Oregon, Northern California area. So I just really wanted to still have ties there. And we have, in these past 2 years, bounced between the three homes we have. So we'll live in the house in the Chicago suburbs. If we're taking a contract here, we'll live in the Oregon house if we're taking a contract there. Or if it's like somewhere else, we'll just use the fifth wheel and then we rent them two out while we're on contracts.
That's the beauty of having investment properties. It's like if you want to live in one of them for a short period of time and they're, short-term rentals or midterm rentals, then yeah, you're free to do that. That's your place.
Yeah, so we make everything short term or midterm, and it's really cool because I won't do long term just because there's not flexibility with what you can do with the house. It's on like a yearly basis.
And how did you guys make your first purchase? Like, how much money did you save? What was the process like? Just go over all of that for me.
So the first purchase we actually did an FHA loan, 3 to 5% down. It was only like $10,000 to $11,000. The house costed $300,000, and it does have to be owner occupied for a year. So we didn't rent it out the first year, but we did choose to do other things that would make the time worth it. Of course, when we lived in it for that first year, I mean, we would go take contracts with the RV, but it was owner occupied. There was no renters in it. We actually chose to do a basement remodel because no one could live in it during a remodel. That just made the house value go up. Now our house value is probably well above 420,000, and we got it at 300,000 in 2021. So it ended up to be really amazing.
So you guys put down what it was a 3% you said on a $300,000 house.
Correct. Correct.
You only put $9,000 down.
It was 11,000 after like closing and all that because there's closing costs too.
Then when that year was up is when you decided to rent it.
Correct. Well, it was a little more than a year because there were some issues with the construction, but ultimately, like that year wasn't wasted because we were using it continuously to do home improvements. We were able to live in it for the last half of the year while they wrapped up the construction. And then we really got to take advantage of furnishing it, seeing what other problems there were with it, and just making it an ideal house to rent out.
You said you were traveling while all of this was going on. How was the construction managed?
That was one of like the biggest mistakes we made. But I mean, I don't regret it because we learned. We were in Oregon at the time. We were in our RV. We were on a contract like the first part of the construction, and it just kind of dragged. Our contractor, I mean, nothing against him, but I wouldn't use him again just cuz we were told 5 to 7 weeks, and then there were some flooding issues with the house, and then they were waiting for it to rain to see where the water was coming from. I'm like, no, we don't have time to wait for rain. Like the original plan was get it renovated in that like quote time. And then we were going to take a home equity line of credit, pay off the house because you can't take a home equity line of credit when there's no equity to begin with. But we had a very good credit score to be able to like use some of our credit cards to fund the construction, but it ended up taking a lot longer. So those credit cards were just sitting there with no HELOC, and it put us into a really sticky situation because our contractor, he was from our church. We had trouble being a little bit like hard, but we had to like, come on, like we don't have time to wait for rain. We're paying you to figure this out and you're not doing it. So it was a little difficult, I guess. I don't regret it, but in the future, I'll never use a contractor I know, because with some contractors, you have to put your foot down, you have to be pushy. And that was really hard to do when you have a different type of relationship with them. And like I said, unfortunately, that relationship is completely gone. We don't talk to them anymore. But I mean, it's a learning process with the business. But I don't regret the construction work we did at all, because it still did give equity to our house, and it just increased our occupancy that we can have in our Airbnb. So now we were able to like list it for a higher price. So
I find it really funny and ironic when we as nurses, we're able to delegate all of these tasks to people and supervise others. But then when it comes to us spending our own money and having to supervise someone else who's doing the job that we hired them to do, it's hard for us to delegate and supervise that kind of work and tell them what it is that we want from them and what we don't want.
right, and that's ultimately why we ended up going back to the house before the construction was done, because like a 5 to 7 week project turned into like way over 10 months, and then it had flooding issues that they couldn't figure out. I'm like, we ended up going back to the house and we lived in it. So we were like calling them every week. What are they doing this week? What are they doing next week? Like, I need a plan. I can't just have a, oh, they'll do it sometime. You know, the fact that we were back there, it kind of got them a little bit, they got the ball rolling. I mean, but like I said, with these side hustles, you learn, like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn the process as you go. I mean, we've been doing this whole like Airbnb rental business for 2 years now. We finally, I say within the past year, got a good hang of it. We got a good flow. Like, we've achieved superhost status. So just really exciting.
Wow, that's amazing. So you said it took you about a year and a half or so before you could actually rent it out then because it took so long for the renovation to take place. And
Correct.
did you do the home equity line of credit after the renovation was complete?
So we actually didn't. So one of the things that like with this whole construction work is that we were going to do that literally like within 5 to 7 weeks, but because our credit lines were just sitting there, our credits actually got too destroyed to even be like approved for a home equity line of credit. So then we had the contractor, and he wasn't very understanding when it came to payments. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm like, Give us time now. You took your time, like give us time." But we ended up, we paid him off, but now we were stuck with all this like credit card debt. But being travel nurses, we didn't have any issues. There was a point in time like that one, like it was probably a year and a half ago, where we really struggled. We almost had to sell the house and just clear the slate, but we didn't have to. And a lot of people think, "Oh, that's so risky, like, you were close to not being able to make your payments," and I'm just like, I don't think people see, like, the numbers as a risk, because, yeah, we were, like, 6 figures in credit card debt, but we also had more than 6 figures in equity. So if we sell it, we're probably getting a little bit of return on it, like a fix and flip, but I mean, like, we really wanted to buy and hold as much as possible, and so far, we've been able to maintain that. We've paid down like a significant amount of the debt. We're making a significant amount of income on our two houses. Just a lot of like really exciting things happening with that.
I see. And did you rent this one out as a short-term rental before you purchased your next home?
No, so actually, we purchased our next home literally 4 months after, because we were both making really good income. I was able to get an FHA under my name because he got, so that's one of the benefits of travel nursing. And it's like completely legal. We did so much research on like home loans and the FHA loans. He was able to get his primary residence in the Chicago suburbs because he's a contract worker. They took his pay stubs, even though it was technically through like Arkansas, one of the agencies that he was working for. But he said like his primary residence is in Illinois, and like his pay stub showed that he made his primary residence there. And he did it under his name for a reason, because we knew we were going to live there the second half of the year and do the construction the first half of the year. And then while we were in Oregon in my RV, I actually got a job offers for my new grad residency program. I needed a house in Oregon, and the plan was to occupy the Oregon house the first year and then come back to the house in Illinois for the last half of the year. And then once we hit that 1 year mark in Oregon, we rented that one out. So the Oregon one actually ended up being rented out first.
Wow. And you had a newborn at this time.
Yeah, I had a 6 month old and I was pregnant with the second.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Wait, okay. How much did you guys put down on this Oregon home?
It was like the same 3%. And that house was $365,000. But like with the taxes and closing costs, like state to state, it's different. So I ended up putting a total down of like $18,000.
Wow.
And like the travel nursing rates at the time, it was like in February of 2022, they had them at like 5,000 plus a week.
Wow.
So I remember my husband like worked 14 days in a row and then like gifted me the down payment.
That's
And it
awesome.
was done. Like, literally just 2 weeks he worked. Oregon nursing is so much different than Midwest, like, you don't get many patients, it's more chill, like, there's break nurses unlike there are here because 'cause we're currently in Illinois. It's a lot more chill there, so he was able to work 14 days in a row. That's how he got the down payment for the second one.
I remember I made a video where I interviewed a nurse who's a local travel nurse in the Central California region. I was explaining to the viewers that what I do as an ER nurse is, I have there's several different roles in the ER, and we have resource nurses, we have like a flow nurse that assigns patients, we have nurses that work in like the fast track area where we take care of patients that are low acuity. Then we have nurses that take care of patients that are higher acuity. We have the bedside nurses, and we have break relief nurses. And one of the viewers saw that and they're like, what is a break relief nurse?
Yeah.
If you never worked in a state that has like better nurse to patient ratios, you don't know what that is because they don't provide break relief nurses.
Yeah, when I'm in Illinois and I'm talking, I'm like, "Yeah, there's no break nurses here." They're like, "Since when is that even a thing anywhere?" I said, "Go to California, Oregon, or Washington. I promise you it's a thing over there."
So when you guys purchased these properties, was your intention to ultimately rent them out?
Yes, ultimately. It was kind of like rent them out and live in them, like, kinda like a both type of thing. Because we had family in the Chicago suburbs, but we, like, fell in love with the mountains. Oregon is so pretty. So we just kinda wanted to be able to have access to both places. So the original plan was literally to live in both, but rent the other one out when we weren't at the other one, which is, like, what we did for a while, and then we're realizing, "Oh my gosh, we're making a lot of money on this. We need to do this a little bit more." Like, we're super hosts. We're so, so, so good at it. I mean, on this alone, I make anywhere between like five to $12,000 a month on the
Wow.
side, depending on like the demand and the time. So, I mean, I haven't paid a mortgage and now almost like over a year we haven't been paying a mortgage. But what I've like recently been getting into, because I've realized like I'm at work and like a lot of people ask me, how do you do it? Can you help me? I have a lot of knowledge about like loans and ways to get rentals. There's ways to do it without even owning a home. Like you could get into some rental arbitrage. And so people are asking me, how do you do it? And I've been giving them like all these advices. Like they didn't know a husband and wife could have separate primary residences if you have like different job demands. So like in that first like year of both of our houses, it was actually a genuine thing. Like my husband had his primary residence in the Chicago suburbs because all our family is there, but I got an offer in Oregon to be staff nurse. That was my new grad program. So it just really worked out. And the plan was to literally occupy both houses because when I was pregnant with my second, we were like in that Oregon house for 6 months. And then after I delivered, he took a contract back in Illinois, and we then occupied that house the second half of the year, and also just to kind of like get the construction moving a little bit better. So yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So how much are you guys generating? You said it's about 5 to 12,000 a month.
Anywhere between 5 to 12,000 a month on that. I recently opened up another side hustle that it's starting to generate like a couple thousand a month, which is like social media. So it's social media based. I wanted to offer nurses advice on this. So many people were asking me, how do you do it? How much money did you need down? And I'm like educating people at work, and one person's like, man, I would have paid someone for that advice. And I'm like, maybe, just maybe you're onto something. That's like my Instagram started growing because I just put out some like free advice. And I went from I think like 300 followers to now I have like over 11,000 in just a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. We've had a couple of sales already, which is just crazy. And really, like the packages that we opened up, no one else does it. I mean, there are some Airbnb courses out there, but I created a course for an Airbnb, and then I do target nurses. But another package that I started to offer, which is actually getting like a lot of inquiries, is a like do it for you package. So I sell that package at like a high ticket price, $15,000. I'll come set up your Airbnb for you and I'll co-host you for the first month. It's really hard to get superhost status initially. A lot of people are like sketch about booking Airbnb with no reviews. And one thing I noticed with our Airbnb is when one house achieved our superhost status and then we listed the other house, house. The other house got bookings easily, even though it didn't have reviews because it was linked to our Superhost house that had like 4.9 stars. I'm like, if only someone co-hosted me the first 30 days, I would have paid money for that because I would have been able to list a lot higher price. I would have gotten that money back in like 2 or 3 months. I'm like, man, I wish someone would have co-hosted me getting started, like a super host, because I would have made probably double in the first 3 months if I was linked to a super host. But getting to super host status, you have to list your house cheap at first, like way below everything. So I'm like, you know what? No one else does that. Why don't we try to like open up a package like that? And we do. We run our properties completely remote. So I know all the equipments, I have all the supplies. Like I could change my locks from 2,000 miles away.
Really?
Uh huh.
Explain. How do you do that?
So it's a smart lock app system. So you buy the lock, you link it to an app, and then it's a keypad generated. So I could like type in a code and be like, this is for this guest. It starts at this time, which is their check-in time, and it expires at their checkout time. So it actually works really well. A lot of Airbnbs I go into and the passcode's just like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, how many people know how to get in this house? I don't know. It's very unique. It's very specific. I always make it like the last 4 digits of their phone number or whatever. But it just like has this safety feature too. And then also for like my cleaners, they have a very specific code to get in. My maintenance crew has a very specific code to get in. And then I could see on my app when the door's been unlocked or locked. So it's actually pretty cool and it's very convenient. I think at first when we started, we didn't have it. I did have a keypad above the door, but one of the biggest problems was there was still like that bolt below it. And I guess accidentally locked the bottom one and they locked themselves out. So that was like a call to a locksmith and like, see, this is the little things that it took us so long to learn and become experts on. And that's where I'm like, so many nurses want to start, I'm noticing, but like don't know how or they're too scared. And like, I see why it does take a very long time to like get the flow of it to get started. But I figured like if we could offer these packages and someone could like bypass that like trial and error period, it's so worth it because you're going to get that return within a few months,
Yeah.
which is probably how long it would have taken you to even start getting profits at first.
So explain to me or go into more detail about how this done for you process works. Let's say I have, I don't know, $100,000 to spend and I want to buy a property because I want to rent it out and through Airbnb as a short-term rental. And I don't want to do all of the work myself, but then I want you to help me out. I approach you, I say, I want you to do the work for me. What is it that you're going to do for me?
So what I would basically do is I wouldn't actually advise anyone to buy that package until they actually have the house or they have a closing date. I'd say buy my course first because like that do it for you package actually comes with my course. Say buy the course first and that course comes with a coaching call. I would coach you on how to get the house, like kind of look into the location, and then I'd recommend the upgrade. So upgrade that course. I'll discount it because you purchased my course already. But then what that would look like is I would actually like the reason I charge 15,000 is I'm going to fly out wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll take flights. I'll travel, I'll book a hotel. So part of that is just like the travel and housing costs that I'm going to have to pay for just to get to you. If you get purchased that do it for you package, I'll do several coaching calls in the beginning before I even come. I'll help you add stuff to your Amazon cart when it comes to furniture. I'll research anything from arranging your cleaning service to arranging your maintenance men. And then I'll fly out there. I will set up the lock system for you, the cameras, the smart thermostat. Like, of course, like the purchaser has to buy all the supplies. They have to pay for the services, but they don't have to arrange any of the services. They don't have to arrange anything. If they didn't even have furniture assembled, I would actually arrange for someone to come assemble the furniture. I'd arrange for professional photos because, like, when it comes to maintenance men, cleaning crews, like, it took me a while to find people for the first house, but the second house, I knew who to look for, where to ask, and it was just such a quick process to set up the second house. And I'm like, man, if my first house could have been set up this quick. And then with that package, I do co-host you for the first 30 days. So that's actually like where most of that money is coming from is the time that it's going to take to co-host and then the time it's going to take me to like come set up your property and make sure I'm getting you the best cleaning service, the best maintenance crew. I'll teach you how to navigate the apps, but those will be set up. So basically, you have a closing date. We arrange when I come. It will take 1 to 2 days, but depending on how big your house is, and then I will list it for you. And then your account's going to be linked to mine for the first 30 days, which means that's really going to boost your bookings. And I'm not going to make all of the replies, but I'm going to make a lot of them because my whole goal is to help you, like to help the nurses make money off of their rentals. Like there's so many people want to start but don't know customer service, don't know how to get these 5 stars. So I do want to hold their hand that first month and be like, this is how you respond to people. But I want you to try it yourself too. You could teach the patient, you could hold their hand when they're getting their mobility back or whatever it is, but you do want them to do as much as they can for themselves under like supervision. So that's basically what I would do the first 30 days is supervise it, but you're also getting a benefit because your house will come up as one of the first preferences because it'll say super host even though I'm just the co-host. It gets people fast bookings. They could list, like, for example, my house in the Chicago suburbs, we had it listed for 180 at first, and now we listed at 350
Wow.
once we became super host. So I mean, like, that's a big difference. So yeah, and what it would do is in 2 days, it's basically like you're gonna have your app and you're a host already without doing any of the work yourself.
So what's the difference for those that don't know? What is the difference between a regular host and a super host?
A regular host is just like someone who listed their house. They don't have necessarily like a response rate. A super host is someone who's like higher recommended in the Airbnb search. So any super host houses will come up first. They have the higher reviews, they have a higher response rate. They have a higher Airbnb satisfaction rate. So we could actually list our houses, I think, a little bit higher than the non-super host houses. But it took a while to get there. That's why I want to let people I co-host do as much as they can in the first 30 days. But like I have templates copied and pasted, or if they're not able to respond, I'll hop in there and help them respond. But it's just like showing an example of how you should respond to people, the type of service you should like be offering to them, because that's what's going to help them get to superhost status a lot faster.
Absolutely. I love that. Wow. Now that you are doing social media as well, you're selling a course and you're generating revenue from your Airbnb properties, how much are you making altogether on a monthly basis?
I did an income disclosure video. As of right now, like before taxes and like mortgages and everything, now with the course, it's probably around $25,000 to $30,000.
Wow.
But like after taxes, probably like if you count like the taxes and then after the mortgages, probably closer to like $12,000 to $15,000 a month.
But we're not taking into account the equity you're building on your homes, the mortgage that's being paid down, like, and there's so many other tax advantages to owning a rental property.
Oh, yes, there is. We got like $40,000 in tax returns back last year. Now, I wouldn't recommend writing everything off like in the long run, but that's one of like the tax benefits is like a business. The first few years you could write off losses. It's really an amazing thing. And I mean, if you bought the course and I coached you through it, your purchase of that course would be a write off. If
Yes.
you purchase that $15,000 package, that's a write off. Like, first thing I'm going to tell you when you buy the course is you're going to go get an LLC, and these are the steps to get the LLC. You put the house under the LLC first and foremost. And that $15,000 is going to be a massive write off, especially because the Airbnb taxes are so high. Like, I think they tax it anywhere but just 40 to 45%. I mean, but we write off like the cleaning service, the utilities, and those you could just write off
Yeah.
continuously. But like, home improvement or like the depreciation value or like construction costs, like, because I did do that to increase my occupancy rate, I was able to write off the contract work. So yeah, I mean, the do it for you package, or even like if you buy coaching calls with me, like that's all a write off. And my thing is, I wanted to do something that's not going to just like have people pay me and I get the money. Like, I want people to pay me, but I want you to make money too. Like, I want to drive my Lamborghini, but I want you to drive yours too. Like, we're nurses, we like helping people. And sometimes I feel like I'm just spread so thin in the hospital, especially in the Midwest. Like, as much as I love bedside, I feel like I'm not helping people as much because I'm just going room to room, passing meds, like, and it gets so busy. And I'm like, well, how can I actually help people? Because like, and feel like I'm making a bigger impact, because I can't just go do it. Like, I clearly can't do it for free. I have like a family. I thought this like, it just kind of like a light bulb went off. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could help people first off make more money than I would bedside, and I could help other people make more money than they would bedside. It's just been paying off, and that's actually why I'm getting out of bedside. I'm able to teach part-time.
It sounds like so many good things are happening for you guys ever since you decided to make this move to invest in real estate. And you know what? Every time I interview someone who invests in real estate, it's like the similar story. I just interviewed a pharmacist, and I've been bringing him onto the live streams. So he had like $250,000 in student loans. And it took him, I think he said anywhere from like 2 to 4 years. I forgot the number, but it took him a couple of years to pay it all off. And then after he paid all of that off, he was like, well, now I have like no debt. He was living with his parents at the time. He was like, let me just keep saving money in this at the same rate. And he bought his first home out here in California. And if you know anything about the California home prices, he paid like $800,000 for his first home. He ended up renting out 3 or 4 rooms in that home so that he can get help to pay off his mortgage or
Mhm.
make the monthly payments. And then he bought another home and another home and another home, all in California. And then he was like, it doesn't really make sense if I continue buying homes in California and they're so expensive. Let me
Mhm.
look outside of California. And he purchased like a multifamily property in Oklahoma. And
Mhm.
now this guy, he's got like over 50 rental units, at
Mhm.
least. I think he's got like 60 of them. But he is at a point where he doesn't have to work as a pharmacist anymore if he
Mhm.
doesn't want to, because he's making just as much, if not more, from his rental properties than he is he's a pharmacy director.
Yep.
So yeah, he's making more money from that. His net worth is like $5 million. He said
Mhm.
he owns like $9 million worth of real estate at this
Yeah,
point.
I think that's really cool, and even though I say, like, I don't really have to work as a nurse anymore, like, that's part of, like, what got me here, so that's why I wouldn't just, like, not work as a nurse, that's why I want to still take a part-time job teaching, but I think that's, like, really cool that he owns, like, over $9 million in real estate. That's our goal soon. I mean, we're getting close to own like, we have $1 million in real estate now, almost a million, so it is a lot of work at first, but it's like once you get the hang of it, it is mostly passive.
That's awesome. So have you had any issues at all with your tenants or with something being broken in your Airbnbs?
Oh, yes. 90% of the people are great. There is that 10%, and it's gonna happen. You can't say, "Oh, it won't happen to me." Like, it will happen. We had, I guess, the guys in the Southern Oregon house, we had, like, a group of, like, 6 guys rent out the house for, like, 2 nights, and they ended up, like, smoking marijuana in the house, they smoked cigarettes in the house, they broke the couch, and they just created, like, a lot of damage. So what we did was we have short-term renters insurance, but Airbnb actually covered most of it, $1,100 in damages. We had to get a deep clean of the carpet, we had to replace the couch. The extra cleaning that our cleaning service had to do costed a little extra. I think it totaled up to, like, over $1,000 just to, like, get the house back to, like, livable. So we did find them on Airbnb, and how it works is they could either accept or refuse the fine. Once they refuse the fine, you submit the proof to Airbnb, which is nice. We had live cameras because we caught the guy walking out of the house with a cigarette. Now they're outside cameras, so like there's security cameras on the outside, but he was coming out the door and the cigarette was lit. So we got him in the act, and we got someone lighting a cigarette and walking inside the house. So there was our evidence there. Because I know a lot of Airbnbs had problems with like people smoking inside the house. That's why we get live security cameras like on the outside, because I would never record anything inside, but recording outside can produce a lot of evidence for what goes on inside. And then we had pictures of the couches cleaning crew took for us, and then we submitted all that proof to Airbnb. And they didn't give us like the full $1,000 that we requested. They gave us 600. So it wasn't bad. They also do consider like, okay, you need a new couch, but how old was that couch that was broken? So they're not going to pay you for a brand new furniture set when they're like, oh, they do take into consideration depreciation value of furniture. So we ended $400 ended up coming out of our pocket, but it actually wasn't so bad because we made like $6,000 that month. And after the mortgages, we had like $3,500 in profits, and then the $400 we spent on a like newer couch. And I say get cheap, durable furniture for this reason because you're going to get furniture that breaks. I just get $400 leather couches, easy to clean. Well, not like leather, it's probably like a fake leather. It looks nice. It looks nice and it's good for like Airbnb. So that $400 is also a write-off. So those are things like people don't understand. Like the $400 gets like taken away from like the taxes. So it's fine. That's the mindset a lot of people have to have.
Yeah. So what about your third party insurance that you had? Did you try to get money through them?
Just $400, I wasn't gonna fight it. It would have taken weeks of a claim. Now, if it was, like, tons of thousands of dollars, that I would have done that.
I
I
see.
wouldn't even tried air cover, I just would have done but if it's only, like, a couple hundred that you're off, I don't even fight it.
I see. And what is your typical occupancy rate for both of these Airbnbs?
Currently, right now, the one on the West Coast is 100% occupied because we have it on midterms right now. Because I've kind of learned the market, it's more busy in the summer. So anywhere between like 60 to 90% in the summer for a house on the West Coast. It does slow down significantly after the holidays, but we actually had travel nurses book it October to March. So I'm like, fine, headache out of the way for now, especially because that's this like slower season. I'd rather do that. But our house in like the Chicago suburbs, oh, it's had like 96% occupancy
Wow.
rate. Like there's days where like our cleaners going in at 11, like right after they check out, and people are checking in at 3. Now for December, our occupancy rate is only 47%, but our December prices are higher because of the holidays. We have $6,000 in bookings, even though it's only 47% occupied right now. So we've more than like tripled our mortgage this month to pay it. And then it's actually pretty cool because like we'll still get more bookings. We'll get instant bookings. Yes, I am enjoying the real estate. It's something that's like I'm putting my effort into something that's my own.
And how much is your mortgage on each of these properties? Because you said it's what you're earning already for the month of December from the one in the suburbs of Chicago is about 3 times as much as your mortgage. How much is your mortgage?
$2,000.
Wow.
In Oregon, 2,400.
Oh man, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so how can my viewers reach out to you if they're interested in your course, if they're interested in just like messaging you and asking you questions?
Well, I'm actually on Instagram as Boss Nurse Lynn. And I actually have a link to all my courses as well. But yeah, that would be great. That's like my favorite thing is to help people because I have so many people who want to do it but never really know where to start. And also like one of the biggest things is the anxiety of starting it. People are like, "Oh, I'll do it later." Like don't wait for later. If it's something you want to do, like go call that lender now. Go purchase a course now. Like you put it off, you're probably never going to do it. So, anyone who's interested in real estate or increasing their income, because I mean, nurses get paid well, but like I don't know. This just pays better. I mean,
Absolutely. And at this point, like you're your own boss. You're not having to work for someone else. You're working for yourself.
that's the whole reason why I made the name like Boss Nurse Lynn. I'm like, I'm working for myself and I'll teach nurses how to work for themselves. And I'm not discouraging like the nursing field or like, I'm not saying, oh, let's retire nursing because that's not my goal. I don't want you to retire nursing. Like, nursing's a part of who I am. Like, I'm always going to work as a nurse in some way, shape, or form. I'll teach, maybe I'll do a PRN job just to keep my license active. Like, my long term goals eventually would be to be making so much money that I could just be a volunteer nurse, like international. My husband coming from Mumbai, he has seen a lot of poverty, a lot of need in healthcare in India. And I think like we're Christians. So one of like my biggest desires is to go on international trips and volunteer my time as a nurse. And that would bring me the most pride. But in order to do that, I need like more money than what bedside can make me. And what better way to do that than helping people of my own kind increase their income and get passive streams of income?
Absolutely. I love that. And it's true. Like a lot of people think that most of the nurses that I've interviewed are just interested in getting out of the field and that they just want to make a lot of money. But, you know, in reality, what we're all looking for is just the option to be able to do whatever we want in life. And, you know, for many of us, we just want to help others. That's like why we got into nursing, right? So, like being able to put yourself in a position where you're making so much money, you're not tied to what you think you have to do, but to something that you really truly love and you want to do. That's what's important, I think, at the end of the day.
Exactly. I think my thing is like I don't want to be tied to a 9 to 5 job, like have pay time off, like only approved in this time or like whatever. I don't want to be told when to be at a place and how. I have that personality type like I have to be the boss. I can help you be the boss, but it's not that you're right. It's not that I hate nursing. Like I love helping people and I feel like I could help more people if I can be more free from those like 9 to 5 shackles. You could be free from 9 to 5 shackles and still be a nurse. Like there's a fine balance with that. Like there's so many other ways to use your nursing skills without being shackled to that like 9 to 5 exchanging your time for money.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click on this video here so you can find out how you can get into Airbnb rental properties with only $5,000 out of pocket. And make sure you subscribe to us and hit that notification bell to watch more videos like this.